Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. I'm a life and parenting coach. And on last week's episode, and actually the last few weeks, I've talked a lot about how to use the connection tool with your kids in order to help them understand that they have big feelings and that those big feelings are coming out through their body, and giving language and labeling those emotions and narrating that behavior so that your child becomes aware and builds awareness around themselves. Big part of the connection tool is about connecting your child to themselves, right? So we want our child to learn how to become a self-aware person who knows what they're feeling, knows how to talk about their feelings, and knows what to do with those emotions so that they choose healthy strategies to help them cope with their feelings and with hard circumstances instead of negative coping strategies. We don't want our kids to get stuck in habits where they have big feelings and they dump those feelings on you by name calling, or they dump those feelings on their sibling by hitting them, or they dump those feelings on their teacher by not listening or running away or avoiding responsibility. Those are maladaptive strategies. Those are normal strategies in childhood because kids come to the world without being able to know how to cope with their feelings. So they just kind of act them out, right? They just show up in their bodies. And those episodes have been really, really useful. And I realized after I recorded them, I started thinking about just what are the gaps that parents have, that you have when you're coaching your child through their big emotions. And one of the things I see in my practice is that it's very hard to teach kids better ways to manage their feelings. What are they supposed to do when they're dysregulated? What are they supposed to do when they have all of that emotion coursing through their bodies? And as a parent, you're not a child development expert. You don't teach preschool. You're not a teacher. So how are you supposed to know, right? How to help your kids? It's like you're expected to kind of know things that you don't know. And even for yourself, a lot of us have no idea how to cope with our negative emotion. For most of us, we shove it down and try to ignore it. And then it pops up, right? Like a teapot boiling underneath. And you kind of know like, well, I don't want my kid to be like that, but I'm like that. And I don't even know what to do with my feelings. So one of the cool things is that you learn how to self-regulate. Then you learn the skills and then you teach your kids those skills. Or you try to teach your kids skills and then you start to practice the same things. So as a whole entire family, you're becoming emotionally regulated and using really positive, adaptive coping strategies so that you don't show up in the world angry and fighting and backbiting and whatever, people pleasing, like all the strategies that none of us want and that we tend to do when we don't know how to cope. So I thought it'd be helpful today to talk about what your kid can do to calm down. What are the things that we know based on science, based on research, that actually help kids? And I could sit here and list 50 things for you. And, that would be really overwhelming in a podcast because you're not sitting there, fervently taking notes, or maybe you are, but still, it's a lot, right? So what I wanted to do was I thought a lot about it. And I thought about these 3 categories that we can do with our bodies in order to calm our nervous system. So these 3 categories are essentially, you can push it out, you can pull it in, or you can move it around. So what we're talking about here is we're like pushing those big feelings out. So there's a bunch of strategies that you can teach your kids of how to push those big feelings out. And I'm going to talk about a bunch of ideas, but I want you to think of these broad categories. You can push your big feelings out, or you can pull in soothing. So you can do comforting things that help give you the sense of comfort that you need, that calm your nervous system. So sometimes our nervous system is really activated and we need to push those big feelings out. Sometimes our nervous system is really activated and we need to calm those big feelings down. So I wanted to think about it. Just sometimes you're looking at your kid and you're like, do they need to push it out or do they need to pull it in? Do they need to move these big feelings out through their body, or do they need comfort and soothing to go on top of their body? And then the last category is move it around. Sometimes the feelings are just sort of stuck and you need to just kind of like give them a swirl inside your body. And that way you can kind of reset the nervous system. So a little bit of movement and shaking around. So gentle movement. So you've got this big, heavy movement, pushing it out. You've got this soothing, pulling it in. And then you got this kind of shake it up, move it around. So I want you to think about when you see your child dysregulated, or yourself, when you notice, okay, this kid is woo, 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 big feeling cycle, meltdown mode, temper tantrum, a whole situation, especially if you can catch it right before the train leaves the station, that can be the most useful, is to recognize, hey, you seem to be getting a little upset, like here's an idea. Now, I'll talk about the obstacles of giving your kids ideas, but if you think about looking at their behavior and you're looking at them as a parent and you're like, okay, what does this kid need? I want you to ask, do they need to push it out? Do they need to pull it in? Or do they need to move it around? That's the question I want you to be thinking. I want you to be looking at their behavior and trying to figure out what would be the best kind of category. You don't know, right? It's hard to tell. So you can try one and that doesn't work. Like you're like, hey, it looks like you have to push it out. You have these big feelings. Like, do you want to hit this? Do you want to jump on a trampoline? Do you want to, carry this heavy thing from one side of the house to the other? Do you want to do push-ups against the wall? Do you want to do a grounding stomp? I'm going to explain all these, but you'll try and say, do you want to do something with your body? Like move it. You got big feelings. You want to push them out. And then your kid is like, whatever. They doesn't seem to resonate. And you go, okay, maybe they need a hug. Maybe they need to have compression. Maybe they need to do something quiet. Maybe they need to reset their nervous system by having a pull in, like a time in, right? Like a little bit of moment where they kind of are taken care of. So do they need to be pulled in? Try that. Or maybe they just need to stand up and move around a little bit. They need to shake it off. They need to dance. They need to do some jumping jacks. They need to swing. They need to rock. They need to do some clapping. They need to sing a song. I really believe that if you have these three categories in your mind, or these three processes, these three ways that your child and you can regulate, then you'll be able to be more creative in the moment. Because I think sometimes it's so hard to figure out what to do in the moment. So my goal is always to give you as much tools and strategies as you can so that you can own the thoughts, the concepts in your own mind. So you're like, does this kid need to push it out? Do they need to pull it in? Or do they need to move it around? So just asking that question. Push it out, pull it in, move it around. How does it work? How does this actually work? So why do we even do this? Now, this thing that I'm teaching you is called co-regulation. Okay. So your child has dysregulated. They are not able to catch their nervous system. Sometimes I think it's like their nervous system is out of bounds. It's like not contained enough. It's like gone wild and they need support, or their regular baseline of thinking and being able to like be in the moment is gone. They're like, sometimes I look to my kids and be like, oh my God, you're like gone, So you know what I'm talking about. It's what we call a temper tantrum or a meltdown, what I call a big feeling cycle, because I think it helps us understand that it's a cycle. It's going to end. It's a big feeling. It's a big emotion, and they're not sure how to process it. And they're trying their best to move through the cycle. So when your child is in that state, they need support. Now, if you can be a calm and regulated adult, then your presence, your nervous system that is calm, is the nervous system that they're borrowing. And that process is called co-regulation. So essentially, it's just them borrowing your regulation. You're a presence that is regulated and you're helping them get back to calm. With your support, hopefully the child moves through that big feeling cycle faster. Or if you're able to teach your child these self-regulation skills enough times, then they will be able to like you have almost like a code language, like a secret code where you look at them and you're like, hey, it's starting, you're starting to get off track. What do you need to do? You've taught them enough times, and they start to know, oh, I need to push these feelings out. I need to be pulled in, or I need to move these feelings around. So you're teaching your children these tools and these skills in real time, but also outside of the big feeling cycles, which I'm going to talk about next week, is how to coach your kid so that they have long-term regulation, right? How to prevent meltdowns, because we all want fewer meltdowns. And the only way you get fewer meltdowns is by teaching your children the skills that they need to manage their emotions so they can recognize, oop, I'm starting to get upset. I remember one time, one of my sons, he was a little older. He was like 12. And it was during the pandemic, actually. And he looked at me straight in the eye and he was feeling very, very overwhelmed. And he put his hand like right at the tip of his head. And he was like, I feel like this all the time. Can you imagine what it's like to feel like this? And he just was like having his hand right up like at capacity, right? Like where there was just no more room. And I thought, what a beautiful way for him to express that he was at capacity. He was overwhelmed. He knew he was getting dysregulated. I've watched that with both boys. I watched them tell me, hey, Mom, I wonder if you're okay. Do you need to take a calm break? They're attuned and I'm attuned, and we're all kind of supporting each other and noticing when we're dysregulated or when we're about to be dysregulated. So in the middle of a dysregulation, big feeling cycle, you want to be looking at your child and helping them figure out what do they need in order to calm their nervous system. How can I support them? What can I offer to them? So we validate their emotion. Like, yes, of course you're upset that I'm going to work. And, you don't want me to go. And you're starting to hit and kick and scream and yell and punch mommy. But that's not okay. So instead of punching mommy and kicking and spitting, why don't you push those feelings out by doing an animal walk up and down on the ground? Or why don't you, stomp up and down like a dinosaur? Or why don't you push up against me? You know what I need you to do? I need you to carry this heavy set. Why don't you carry my bag to the car? Right? It's so great to see like a little kid carrying something heavy. And it's very regulating actually for the nervous system to kind of work hard. Maybe they need to jump up and down for a minute. So you're looking at their emotion and their strategies, their behavior, and how that emotion is coming out of their body, and you're giving them ideas for how to get back to calm. So when you're looking at your child, you're thinking, okay, do they need to push these feelings out? Do they need to pull these feelings in? Or do they need to move these feelings around? Now, in general, all of us use our body to regulate our emotion. The brain is stuck inside the body, and when it gets overwhelmed, it gets flooded with chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline and things like that. It is seeking to get back to what we call homeostasis. The brain, your child's brain does not like to be dysregulated. It actually wants support. It wants to get to calm. And so it's looking for support. It wants help. And it's doing its best to use the body, like hitting, kicking, spiting, punching, running away, yelling, hiding, all these different behaviors you see. This is the body's best attempt to take care of the nervous system. And when you see that, you want to pull your child in and have them do a different behavior. The other thing about negative feelings, so you can move through your body or you can talk about your feelings. Sometimes that helps, but it's hard for kids in the middle of dysregulation to talk about their emotion. They're not ready to reflect while they're dysregulated. So that's kind of needing to relate to you and having logic. You can't do that until you're regulated. So we want to really look at the body and look at your child's behavior and say, okay, this child is dysregulated. This child's body needs support. If you are not able to co-regulate, that's okay, because long-term, It's your child's job to learn how to self-regulate. You are there as the parent, guiding and supporting and teaching skills. And along the way, your child's supposed to pick up those skills of self-regulation and eventually learn to self-soothe on their own. We hope that they have been taught enough strategies by you and through the society, school, wherever, your church and temple or whatever environment you're in, that they've been taught positive, adaptive strategies so that when they get to teenagehood, adolescence, and they get into adulthood, that they have really good strategies. They know, I got to take a walk. I've got to move my body. I've got to drink some water. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm going to go take a break and wash my hands. They've learned to be attuned to themselves. So don't give yourself too hard of a time if you're not able to co-regulate. I'd like you to see it instead of judging yourself like, oh my God, I can't handle this kid and there's such a problem and I'm such a bad mom because I listened to Darlene's podcast and she told me that I'm supposed to co-regulate and now I can't co-regulate because I'm so mad and I'm a terrible mom. No, I would rather you look at it like in this moment, my child is dysregulated. I don't have the capacity to co-regulate. I'm going to trust that nervous system over there, that kid's nervous system, is able to manage itself. Now that's the truth, is that the nervous system is drawn to finding a way back to balance. So you can trust your child to get to a place of calm. You can trust that their body and that their brain are going to get them to the other side of that dysregulation and get back to regulated state or homeostasis. Now, it might not look pretty when they're learning the skills, when they're learning to be soothed on their own. What we want to do is hold the value of physical safety first. So in this house, everyone stays safe. You can be upset. You can have big feelings, but I will not let you hit me. I'm going to get up and move away from you. I have to protect my body. Now, I don't want you to do it in a way that's rejecting. I want you to do it in a protective way that's somewhat logical. So you can stand up and take a few steps back. You don't have to leave in anger. Now, I know a lot of you are still working on regulation, and it's very hard for you to stay present in front of your child while you're dysregulated. You do feel like you need to escape. If you do, that's fine. Just explain. I'm going to go calm my body. I'm going to let you calm your body. I love you, and I will be back. You can be alone for a minute while I go calm myself. You have to say some of these soothing comments to your children. Otherwise, they will find your lack of co-regulation. They can find it as an abandonment. Not like a long-term abandonment, but just in that moment when they are seeking help and they need an adult to help them and that adult isn't available, they may take it personally because of the way that they are designed as being little kids. They're really self-centered. And so just saying some soothing sentences is really important. So I want to say that co-regulation is a real high value, but self-regulation is also a high value. So don't judge yourself too harshly if you are not able to co-regulate. The other thing is that some kids, honestly, they get so accustomed to always having their parent co-regulate with them that even if you're calm, it might not be in your child's best interest for you to always go through the entire connection tool, narrating, naming, validating, regulating over and over and over again. It may not be useful or in service of your child's skill building. So sometimes you may have to say, I think you can handle these big feelings. I'll be back to check on you. Why don't, you're welcome to do something with your body to calm it down. Now, what can they do to calm it down? I want to go through these ideas. Push it out. Okay. So push it out. I want you to think about something heavy work. Like you have a big feeling and you want to push it. So you have your kid and they're like, hitting or stomping, or they're like throwing things on the ground. And it's just like they're trying to push those big feelings out. And I'm standing here talking to you, and my arms are up and my feet are on the ground, and I have all this energy in my body. And I picture a little kid who's like, right? They're like a little Hulk, they want to get it all out. So then we want to say, yes, of course. So one of my favorite tools that I teach is called a grounding stomp. You stand up and you gently stomp your feet on the ground. Now, it says gently stomp, but I actually think of it more like a big stomp, like a dinosaur stomp, like a big boom, boom, like a big elephant would stomp on the ground. And I love to add rhythm to that stomp. So I'd say like, stomp with your right foot, stomp, stomp. And then or copy me, stomp, stomp, stomp. And, I'm alternating my feet, or I'm, 1 foot down, 1 foot down, and then 2 feet up in a jump. So teaching your children, like, you have those big feelings in your body, let's stomp them out. So that would be pushing it out. I've talked about this before about pushing up, right? Pushing out with your hands. So think about the stomping is with your feet. You can also kind of push out with your hands. So I love having a kid put their hand on my hand and push as hard as they can, especially if I'm standing and I'm in a grounded space, right? I'm like ready to like withstand their pressure. You can do this, like, it depends on how strong you are, but up until like kids like 8 or 9, you can probably hold their body weight if they're pushing against you without you getting hurt. Now, obviously, please, if you have like an injury, my shoulder hurts, don't do this one, okay? But just if you have some strength in your body and you're able to have your kid push against you, now if they can't push against you, they can go push against a wall. They can go stand against the wall, push the wall, or, push this pillow. So it's push. So we're giving them this idea to move those big feelings out, push the feelings out. Another thing is kind of doing something with their body that's a little bit hard, like a bear crawl on the ground. So you can have them crab walk, bear crawl, things like that, moving their body on the ground. If, like, for example, I was thinking of this when my son was little, and he would be in this, kind of refusing space, right? And I knew I needed to move him out of the room, or he was just becoming like hurting other people, right? I'd say, you can't be in here because it's not safe. So do we need to move, or are you going to move? And he's like, neither. I'm not moving. He was so sassy. And I would then slow my heart rate down a little bit, and I'd say, okay, well, I could drag you like a caveman, or you can walk and stomp on your own. So the idea is you're moving the child, but they're going to have some agency, some say in how they move. And if you can add a little game, like play, pretending you're a dinosaur, pretending you're a caveman, pretending you're a pirate, pretending you're a snake, pretending you're a bear, pretending you're an elephant, a giraffe, whatever, giving them some ideas of how to move their body in a big, aggressive way. Another thing, obviously, is like if they're wanting to hit, they can hit pillows, they can jump, they can clap their hands together really loudly. You can have them kick a ball against a wall if that works, if you are at a house and you have that available to you. So thinking about these movements, if you notice that they're big body movements with the upper body involved or the lower body. So really kind of like looking at your child and saying, okay, let's move these big feelings through. Okay, that's pushing it out. Pulling it in. I want you to think soothing. I want you to think calm. I want you to think of things that are cozy, right? So my favorite strategies in pull it in is what is called squeeze and release. So you teach your child to make their hands really, 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 really tight, and then squeeze. Now squeeze your arms, squeeze your shoulders, squeeze your whole body, squeeze. Let go. Release. Go floppy like a noodle. So you can have them do that with different parts of their body. They could squeeze their feet, squeeze their whole body, squeeze their belly, squeeze their face, squeeze their shoulders. So you're kind of pull. Let it go. So that squeeze, release. That's a great strategy. So you can teach these in advance. You can teach them in the moment. You can practice them. You can model them. All of these are really good to do in front of your kids and with your kids, either in the moment or as prevention strategies. The other one I love is called a butterfly hug. And since this is audio, you can't really see me, but I want you to imagine that I'm taking my arms and I'm crossing them over my chest in a hug. So my right arm is on my left shoulder and my left arm is on my right shoulder. And then I can squeeze myself in a big hug, like a squeezy hug. So that's kind of a pull it in, right? And then I can start to tap my shoulders with my hands in a pattern from left to right, like a butterfly flapping its wings. So you're just kind of tapping while holding. That is a pull it in. It's very soothing. You can give yourself a bear hug. You can wrap yourself in a blanket. You can go in your cozy corner. You can color. You can drink water. You can talk to your stuffed animals. You can use a stress ball. You can pet your animal if you have a pet. You can, do those soothing things that sort of calm the nervous system. I'm thinking about when you have a kid who's dysregulated in public, right? What can you do? So you pull them aside, right? They're dysregulated, they're overstimulated, they're at a party with friends, they're in line, they're at the circus, they're at the farmer's market, they're at a restaurant, like whatever, right? So you're pulling them in to you. And then you're saying, okay, let's figure out what to do with your feelings. You're dysregulated. You can say that to your kids. You're dysregulated. You're having big feelings in your body. Do you want to push them out, or do you want to pull them in, or do you want to move them around? You can say this as young as 3. You teach them the concept, and then you say, what are you going to do? And then you kind of reset their nervous system with you. The last one is move it around. This is my favorite in general because I just love moving my body. So the best one that I love is shake it off or shimmy shake. And I love to teach my kids and then also do it in real time is to put your hands in the air and then just shake your whole body from your hands all the way through your chest and your hips and your knees and your legs and go all the way to the ground and then shake it back up. And that's a shimmy shake. So you can pretend that you're shaking off the negative feelings, like you're shaking off water from your hands. So you can, if you don't want to do a whole shimmy shake, you can just shake your hands, fast. You can do dancing can be movement. You can do a jumping jack. You can swing. You can rock. You can drum. You can clap. You can blow bubbles. You can sing songs. You can wash your hands. Those are all kind of movements that are a little bit more gentle. So you're not pushing those big feelings out. You're just moving them around a little bit, allowing a little bit of energy shift inside the body. So these are the best strategies that you can do when your child is in a dysregulated big feeling cycle, is pulling them aside, narrating, hey, I see you're having big feelings. I get it. We're in a crowded area, or we've been waiting for our food for a long time, or we just got out of school and you're hungry. And you want to narrate and name that the circumstance. You name the feeling. Yeah, it makes sense. You'd be overwhelmed. I get it. That's okay. You validate it. You say, yeah, of course. This is a hard thing you're doing. Yeah, okay. It makes sense that you'd be feeling the way you're feeling. But we don't act that way, so you need to regulate. You need to move your body. So what are you going to do? Do you want to do this or that? So it's kind of a little bit of a limit, a little bit of a boundary. Can't do that. You got to do this. So which one are you going to do? So that's that calm. You're calm. You connect with them. You limit set and you regulate. Isn't that great? It's like, I want you to feel empowered as a parent. I want you to feel like you know what to do and you're not just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. My kid is totally out of control, psycho, ridiculous. Everyone's staring at us. I'm a bad parent. Da, da, da. No, children, they misbehave. They dysregulate easily. They get overwhelmed. Their nervous system misfires, especially if they're neurodivergent in any way. So your kids, they are primed for dysregulation, and you're teaching them how to regulate. You're teaching them these skills. So next week, I will give you a script on how to do this outside of the big feeling cycle, like how to prevent meltdowns, how to teach your kids emotional regulation skills. And that will be really useful. But this one I wanted you to have for in the moment, what do you do? In that connection tool, you narrate what's going on, what you can see. You name the feeling, you validate it, then you tell your child, you have to regulate your emotion now. So I think that parents get stuck with, I validated, now what? This is the answer to that now what? It's regulation. Co-regulation or self-regulation. But no matter what, your child's going to use their body to regulate their emotions. And so you want to have them either push those feelings out, pull the soothing in, or move those feelings around. Okay, I know this is really helpful. I'd love to hear from you if you want to reach out on Instagram at Darlyn Childress, or reply if you're on my email list, reply to the email that you get and just let me know what you learned or what you want to know more about. I read all those emails. We don't get a ton, so I read them all, and I'm happy to respond to you. And of course, if you're interested in working with me, I do have some openings in my consultations right now, so you can book a free consultation and we can talk about what it looks like to work with me privately. Just you and me on Zoom. It's pretty cool. All right, Mama, have a great week and I will talk to you next time. Hey, Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.